relates to how much interaction I've had with a student and what kind of relationship I've had, because it's one of those things where it's very clear. I had to get used to, which I always felt bad initially, is a lot more people know my name than I know them. And so, hey, Dr. Kauser, and then you're immediately gone, should I know that?
You should know my name.
Yeah. What's up?
We have one more testimony.
Yeah, oh, sure.
You want us to do that now?
No. I'll have another break. I've forgotten.
So why don't you do 4?
Okay, I'll do that one. Because I'm going to do it quickly, and then I'll lay
after that break, we'll do the last testimony
all right.
before your last.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right, good. All right, well, I hope you get the blood flowing again, going back. I want to come to number 4 here. I don't know what in your notes it's, sorry, what is it? 14, page 14, yeah. This is another one that I want to try to touch briefly, and then our last session I want to lay into the last one a little bit, because I think it's foundational to all of them here. But this is where he's basically the word courageous is to act like a man, is the definition of courageous. Of course, in Paul's vocabulary, to act like a man, to be courageous, is to be courageous for the things of Christ, as Christ, to pursue what Christ has in store for me, for my family, for the people in my life. So we're focusing in on be courageous, be strong, is the idea. And this is the clear idea that, seriously speaking, physiologically, one of the things that distinguishes men from women is that on average, men are stronger than women, okay? Hence, we've found out about the all excruciating detail with all the transgender things that are going on. So everybody's studied everything ad nauseum, and we've concluded what we've all known for a long time is that people that are born male have distinct physical advantages over people who are born female. I say that, and we always speak with generalities when we speak about men and women, because you can't put them in nicely square boxes. You know, they always overlap on the edges. And as I was growing up, right, we always had categories, right, for a girl that seemed to have more male interests and tendencies. We called them tomboys, right? And so on the other end of the scale, you had the girly girls, right? That kind of idea. Then over here, you had men that were involved in things that were more characteristically female. And then you had, you know, the guys over here chopping wood and chopping people's heads off, right? Over here on the other side, right? But whatever you have, right, in that scale, right along there, we all know, right, and speaking in generalities, that men are not women and women are not men, right? And so we may not know where the exact boundaries are between them, but we do know they're different. It's in the same way analogy someone has used is, it's very hard to know where the sea actually meets the shore, but there is a sea and there is a shore, okay? So we know the difference, and so we speak in generalities without trying to, I think one of the things in Christian circles that hurt a lot of women is we made a very narrow box for what a woman should be. And a lot of women who are good women are following Christ are going, wait a minute, I don't fit in this very narrow box. Something's wrong either with the church or with the whole notion of what it means to be a woman, right? And so same way with men, had those kind of boxes, right? I grew up in a family in Appalachia, and men, I was telling this to somebody at lunch, my dad grew up, and it was just a simple thing that if you're a dad, you raise the boys and your wife raises the girls. That's just it. Clear division of labor, right? And my sister, for her whole life, wanted a special relationship with my dad, and my dad was not a cruel or abusive man, but he just thought that that was not his job to do that. And it hurt her over the course of time because she would see us going out and enjoying a day of hunting, and she longed to do something with my dad like that. She envied me, right? And he needed to have a relationship with her in terms of that. And so he had these clear defined boxes, and none of the men in my extended family, we're affectionate. I know I've joked with you about that. You need to get a firm handshake. One of the best ways that I laughed, and it took me a while to get used to it, my mom's brothers, which she had 7 of them, and the way they showed affection to you was just to tease you mercilessly, right? So they'd find some weakness in you or something they'd get there that would, like they could find out where to shoot the gun to make you dance, and they would pick it out and they'd pick after it, right? And I'd get all inflamed, which of course made me the ideal tease, right? And I remember my mother saying to me, Greg, if you just ignore it, it would go away. They're just saying that they like you and they're trying to invite you into it, right? When I met my father-in-law, who was an Italian, Italian meaning his mom and dad came through Ellis Island. My wife's grandmother's name was Italia. You can't get more Italian than that. And her grandfather's name was Luigi, right? So you can't get any more than that, right? Luigi and Italianardo, right? They come in, Raymond is their boy, and Raymond was 6'4". This is my father-in-law. Big old, he looked like a mafioso don. Just a big guy like that. And when I met the family for the first time, I never had so many men kiss me. And it was the most awkward thing ever, right? Big guys reaching out, grabbing me around the side of my face and doing this kind of thing on both sides of the face. I'm going, what are you doing, right? But I didn't do anything back because he's like twice the size of me, right, in terms of that. And it happened 3 or 4 times over, and I thought, that's really odd. Nobody in my family in Appalachia ever kissed me, right? No man would be caught dead doing something like that, right? They may punch me, they may do that. Men didn't hug. They didn't do those things like that, right? I used to irritate my dad when I was in college because I'd see him and I'd go run up and give him a big bear hug. And he'd go, whoa, kind of thing like that. I have one of my fellow elders. He gives me one of those penguin hugs, like, Greg, come on, back off, right? So, but the whole idea, right, of different men being different than men, or women idea, is that we put them in too narrow of a boxes. We sometimes strain them, but we want to affirm that they're different, and that men and women are different, and we play different roles. And I know my women in my life look to me for different things than I look for to them, right? Emotionally, relationally. So here's a couple of them. Where do I need to show courage and strength, okay? Courage, according to Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, is knowing what not to fear. I love that phrase, because a godly man fears the right things. Okay, Jesus said, Matthew 10:28, don't fear the one who can kill the body, but fear the one who can cast both body and soul into hell, right? You should know who the real authority is, okay? So that's something that we have to come after, and so he's just simply getting at that insight. Or here's Omar Bradley. Bravery is the capacity to perform properly even when scared half to death, right? And I don't know how many times that by God's grace, I've done something that I know I needed to do, and I was scared while I was doing it. And if some of you think that if I was really following Christ, maybe I wouldn't have that. Well, one of the things that often encouraged me is Paul talks about when he came into Corinth, that he came to Corinth with fear and trembling, right? And yet he moved forward because he was obedient to the Lord, and he was asking the Lord to strengthen him to it, but he did it while he was fear and trembling, right? And so the issue here is men need courage, a little statement here, and strength to trust God and live out his design in the face of a culture that is not looking for these kinds of men, right? So let me work through these statements here real quickly. You need courage and strength to take risks, okay? Courage and strength to take risks. Now, a lot of times when men are talking to other men, or they're thinking about a man taking risks, they have some big grandiose thing, like to start a new business, right? To strike out on your own as an entrepreneur or do that. Well, those are kinds of risks. There's no doubt about it, right? But some of the things that you need the most courage for, you don't even have to go out your door to do them, right? So here's some of them. You need courage in setting the spiritual tone in your family. In setting the spiritual tone in your family. To pray, to read the scriptures, to lead the conversation about who you are, your family is, and where you are there going, right? And not about others. I'm a father to adult kids now. Yeah, one of the things about being an adult father, I never anticipated sitting with my daughters and having them review their experience of my parenting. Right? And, things that I thought went really well from their perspective, they didn't think that was so great. Right? Or they would point out some habits that my wife and I had, and after we reflect on them a little while, you go, yeah, you're right. You're right. And they would point it out, and sometimes I'd get my back up and get defensive, and then other times say, you're right, honey. That's right. That's right. That's embarrassing, right? Because they saw it all, and I maybe saw it through a particular lens, and they may even be struggling with something that I did that I thought was okay, but left them with something that they've had a hard time dealing with, right? So that's been a good thing. But one of the things we covered, we started this thing where we have we have a Cowser retreat, we call it every summer, where all the families get together. And when I started this thing off, I said, by God's grace, okay, I want to keep Jesus at the center of it. So whatever we do, I want to keep Jesus at the center of it. And I want us to be honest with each other. And I want us to have depth in our friendships. And I said, we're all going to grow and change. You guys are going to become parents. This is at the beginning. Things are all going to shift and change. But I said, by God's grace, I do not want this to be a family event where we all come, we put on plastic faces, and then we get in our cars and go, oh my goodness, those people are crazy. And I said, I want depth in our friendships, even if I'm doing something, you please confront me, right? And I made some stupid blunders as a dad. When my oldest daughter got married, here's a classic one. I'm a little DIYer kind of thing. So my daughter calls me up, they're newly married, and said, Dad, we got some shelves and things like this that I go. Well, she had not talked with her husband. They're still doing these things. And so I show up with my wife, and we just walk into their house and start doing DIY stuff. Well, how many of you would be happy just to have some guy walk in and just start tearing shelves out and doing X, Y, and Z? Well, her husband over there, he's not so happy. And I'm wondering, why is he not so happy? I'm serving him while I'm doing this, right? Well, he's taking this as a statement of his ineptitude, right? And I'm not doing these kind of things like that. Why didn't my wife talk to me about it, right? So here's father-in-law coming in, and I had a good relationship with him. And slowly, it starts to dawn on me that, man, this is not a good thing. And so I had to walk over to him, and I said, Grayson, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you'd have done this in my house, I'd be over here going like, what are you doing, right? And I said, I came in here, and I'm sorry. I thought that my daughter, and so I had to go to my daughter and say, hey, next time you ask that, you talk to your husband first before you ask me, right? Don't do that, right? She, I know, I forgot, and what we were all getting used to a new way of doing things, right? And so, but I had to clean that up. We had to go there, those kind of things. So what I mean by that is we need courage to set the spiritual tone, to bring Jesus into our family. Now, obviously, you can do that in your prayers, in your own walk with Jesus. That has to be first. But even to find ways where you come to a meal, and with 10 grandchildren, it's just chaos interrupted by reasonable activity, right? So you got this thing going on, and say, no, we're going to pause. Everybody, we're going to struggle, we're going to pause, but we're praying before we eat. We're going to pray. Or, we're going to have Thanksgiving. We're going to sit down, and we're actually going to talk about what we're thankful for before we just tuck into everything. And you have to fight for those things, over time, but I want to set a spiritual tone, and even where, I don't know if you think about this, but this has been so powerful in my life. As I'm talking to my son-in-laws and they're going through something, is to say, hey, I don't have the answer for that, but can I pray for you about that? Can I pray for you? And I'm not praying at him, I'm just praying with him. Lord, I don't know how, help me love Dan, help him to figure out what to do, right? All those kind of things. So that's what I mean by the spiritual tone. It's not you having some big elaborate program. It's not those. Sometimes it is those kind of things, right? But even to if you normally invite Jesus into your struggles, you will normally invite Jesus into the struggles of the other people that you care about. It will sound phony if you don't do it in your own, right? So that's one thing here, spiritual tone. Second, in talking to your kids about things that matter. In talking to your kids about things that matter. Now, I've told you about my dad. It was funny when I started, hit puberty, right? This is everybody hit puberty. Things were happening to my body. I didn't know what was going on. I went to talk to my dad, and my dad turned like 30 stages of red. He just looked at that, and you know what my dad said? We need to get an appointment with your doctor. Seriously. You get an appointment with your doctor. And I go, oh, something's wrong with me. Daggone it, I'm going to the doctor. Like, what's going on? And I had Dr. Case tell me about what was happening to me. And I walked out, and my dad goes, that go okay? Yeah, it went okay. That was the extent of our conversation. Right? Now, I chuckle about it now, but that's exactly what happened, right? And when I went out on my first date with a girl, you know what I wanted my dad to do, but I didn't know how to ask for it or anything else? I would ask him, okay, Greg, you're going on a date. What are you doing? What's a date about? What are you going to do on a date? What are you trying to find out? How are you going to treat this girl? Right? What are you going to do? What's going to be a good date? Have you thought about any kind of boundaries, right, in terms of that? I wanted him to talk about that, but that was not something that we could have a conversation about. And I look back on that, I got regrets. I mean, I'll tell you, by God's grace, seriously, by God's grace, I was a virgin when I married, but that didn't mean I didn't break boundaries. Right? And I hurt people. I got hurt in return. And when I look at that back then, somebody needed just to look at me in the face and say, hey, Greg, I love you. You're my son. Right? Let's talk about this. Right? These kind of things. And I had girls. And so okay, what am I going to do? Here was one of the things that I had with my girls, put it this way. And it scared the bejeebers out of me. When my girls started getting attracted to guys, I thought my world was going to collapse. Right? Oh, no, Lord, what am I going to do with that? So, by God's grace, I would set aside, pull my girls aside, and I would do this. Okay, I say, here's what's going on. And I see it happening. Sometimes they go, oh, come on, Dad. No, honey. No, hang in here. I know that it's right and good for you. You've got to be attracted to some of the guys in your sphere of influence. Okay? But I want to ask you, right, here's my vision for you. I want this life for you, right? It's a great thing to be married. It's a great thing to have the right partner. But this is the kind of man I'm looking for because this is the kind of life I want you to have by God's grace. That's the vision that I want for you. I'm going to ask you as you start this journey, will you let me be on your team? Will you invite me to help you through this journey? Because you're around your peers, and there are some girls already who have made choices that have changed their life forever and the lives of other people. And you know this is not a game that doesn't have real consequences. And one of my jobs as a dad is to help you figure out how to navigate this territory without long-term consequences. And my girls, okay, Dad, yes. And I used to tell them, if you find a guy that doesn't immediately want to know me or be known by me, that's like a red flag right up the pole. Right? Because why would he want to hide from the man who's out for your good? That, number one, tells me he's not mature enough for the kind of relationship he wants to have. And number two, that I don't trust him. Right? And so we went through that thing. And I'll tell you, was I uncomfortable and awkward? Yes. You know, all those kind of things like that. But I said, I have to have the conversations with the things that matter. I can't leave them to somebody else to have them. Right? Now, my wife had different conversations that I didn't have any business having with my daughters. Right? But I needed to have a dad conversation. I need to have one. And so we have to be willing. And I'll tell you, will that take courage to do that? Yes. I'll tell you that. Right? I'm not a confrontation guy. I am not a confrontation guy. And if I have a confrontation I know that's coming up, I'll start 2 or 3 days in advance. I'll start feeling the anxiety starting to build. And I'm going, what in the world? It's a beautiful day. Things are going great. Why do I feel so anxious? And then I got this conversation coming up on Thursday. And it's starting to already feed into me, right? And so I have to start praying my way through it. But I know I need to have it. When I first started as a professor, out of self-interest, I so wanted to be liked by my students that I abrogated my responsibility to confront bad behavior in their life. And so at first I let it go, right? That's okay, fine. That's kind of. Well, now I'm the old awkward guy. And so I love my students too much to let them get away with things that are hurting them. I've had students try to manipulate me, try to blame me for everything that's going on in their class, whatever the case may be. And again, where I'm wrong, okay, well, you're right, that was a bad question, let's get it fixed, right? But on the other hand, I'll have a conversation with a student oh, this is the one. We're in a big room, there's 150 students, and somebody's got their computer out, they're taking notes, and they're watching some YouTube video on it. And I start to see all the eyes of the students getting attacked to the video, people chuckling, right? It's super awkward, and I know that if I go do something about that, I will lose the class for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll walk up to there and I go, hey, right? I'm standing there, and Michael's right there. I say, hey, Michael, what are you watching? And Michael, all of a sudden, you know, kind of thing like that's going on. The whole class is like going, boom, you know, kind of thing like that. And Michael said, Michael, you know, I trust you to do what you need to do, but when you start doing things that are distracting other people, okay, that's when I need to say something. So can you stop that? Yes, Dr. Kauser. And then the whole class for 10 minutes is like, you know, I got to recover it. I hate that. I hate it. But I'm abrogating my responsibility if I don't say something, right? Now, that takes wisdom and all those kind of things, and I've stepped into it before. I've had students say different things to me, right, in the moment. I had a student one time that we were doing something in class, and it was funny, and they started to whip out their phone to record it surreptitiously, and I said, hey, are you trying to record that? The whole class went, whoosh. What are you going to do with that? What is it you were trying to get? Right? And so those kinds of things, I hate those things. I never get up and go, oh, that was a great day. I go, oh, man, that was miserable. Okay? But we need that fixed points of compassion. Sometimes you need to stand in with your kids and say, honey, I love you. Son, I love you. But the answer is still no. I know, but it's no. Okay? So it's no, and I love you. I'm going to hold here, and if we have to go over it again, why? But it's no, and that's the idea. I need courage to have those hard conversations. Okay? What did I do here? I just lost something. Hold on, did I put that away? In pursuing a woman or a wife. Sorry, I got rid of that page. I don't know what I was doing. In pursuing a woman or a wife, you need risk. That's courage. Okay, I know plenty of men who've been burnt by women, and sometimes when I'm talking with our Women's Discipleship Council, you know, sin is no respecter of persons. Women are not sinless, and I don't say that because I'm trying to hit on women at all. I'm just saying that women struggle with sin like men do, and when you go after a woman, if in a relationship, yeah, you can get hurt. Yeah, she can take advantage. There's other things that can happen in terms of that, but that's not true of most women. But you're going to need some courage to do that because you can't make yourself vulnerable and try to get to know someone without taking risks. You may get hurt. Then in speaking up, the next one, in speaking up at work or in your group of friends, okay, in speaking up. Right, Phil was talking about Pastor Will coming up to him and engaging him at the beginning and saying, you know, hey, why don't we go get a meal together? Or his neighbor stepping over to him and say, let me preach Jesus to you, Phil. I mean, you know, it takes courage. I know it takes, every Christian I know of can recall some event where you're sitting there talking to someone and the Spirit of God is doing everything but kicking you in the butt, telling you to say something. You're having this inner turmoil about whether you're going to say it or not. And sometimes we do say it, and sometimes we don't. And you got that. So everybody knows it. It takes courage to open your mouth because sometimes the guy can get mad at you. Sometimes they can brush you off. Sometimes it makes you the party pooper, right? Many of my students at Cedarville, they'll come to me, and this is a classic conversation. You know, Dr. Kauser, I'm concerned about my friends in my friend group because they're doing some things that is, I just think it's bad for them. And I say, well, okay, what's going on? And they'll tell me, and so I don't know who the friends are. And I said, yeah, that is concerning. I said, well, what have you done? Well, I haven't done anything yet because I don't want to mess up our friend group. And I said, well, let me just tell you this, right? You stink as a friend. Right? You stink as a friend. You know, what kind of friend is only worried about themselves and their little group while they watch their friends walk off the cliff? Just so you don't want to be, you know, discomforted by what's going on. I don't really even know if you love your friends. Oh, well, yeah, I do. I said, no, it sounds to me more like you're trying to protect something, and you're trying to figure a way for me to go after something that you should go after so that you won't get the blowback. Right? Now, I only say this to students if I know them really well, right? So this kind of thing. And I said, that's the kind of thing, right? We as husbands shouldn't be letting our wife take all the blowback. Or do you make me the bad person, right? So the whole idea in terms of that is that as we're going after each other, we need to go after each other at times when we've lost our minds, and we need to be willing to say that, not because our desire is to be the police of people, but because we love our brothers, right? And then number 4, to change the focus of your friendships, okay? To change the focus of your friendships. You know, we were having men's groups, this is 4 or 5 years ago. We were finding men's groups that were meeting together, and it was good. They were meeting together. Nothing nefarious was going on. They were gathering together. They get together early. And then we found out in one men's group that a guy was an alcoholic. And, of course, he wasn't announcing it to anyone, but he was an alcoholic. And what we've come to find out is they were a group of guys. They loved each other. They came and hung out together. But they weren't actually talking to each other about their own walks with Jesus or anything that was really beyond whatever the sports topic was or whatever the ideas and things were. And so nobody was asking, and they were all surprised that this guy was literally imploding in their midst. And nobody was aware of it because nobody was asking those kinds of questions. It doesn't mean that he would have necessarily been honest with them, but he didn't have anybody that was just saying, hey, how are you doing? What's happening between you and Jesus? What's going on between you and your wife, right? How are you doing with your kids? Is there anything that I can pray for, right? So the focus of your friendships, I mean, I can have a friendship, right, if as a guy who's kind of an extrovert and a pastor over a while, I know how to move through a crowd and be perceived as friendly and get away without anybody knowing anything about me. I mean, you just do that. I talk about the weather, I can talk about sports, I can talk about all those things, but what does anybody really know about me? Nothing. Because we all know how to keep the conversation at this level. It's a choice to go, and there's a lot of things, disincentives down here, like I don't want to encourage vulnerability because then I have to be vulnerable. I don't want that. Or if we have the vulnerability, then I might have to own something that Ben's struggling with. I don't want to own his stuff. Ben, keep your own stuff, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I feel it, right? And so you try to keep it right up here because, and so, figuratively speaking, we come to each other and we go, Phil, are you fine? And Phil's supposed to say, yeah, I'm fine. No, Phil, don't answer that. It's not a real question. That's just me saying, I'm recognizing you as a human being. It's not a real question, right? And so your friendships, if you're not talking to each other about those things, maybe you need to change the focus, and that's a little bit of an awkward conversation if you got used to, well, that's not the kind of friend I want you to be. Okay, well, I can't make myself another kind of friend, but I should get engaged on a different level, right? Not because I'm nosy, not because I want to mess around, not because I need something extra, because that's what love is, right? That's what I say about it. Okay, then the last thing here, what are the faces of fear? And how does a Christ-dishonoring fear show up in my life? Okay? I think it's a worthy question I want to talk about later. And here, I will, by God's grace, fight to overcome the fears that stand in the way of following Christ. Okay? I don't know what you would... one of my biggest fears, so I'll just be honest with you, I fight it all the time, is the fear of people. I want to be liked and appreciated by people. This first hit me as a pastor when I had to do a funeral, and the wife invited me to do the funeral, and nobody else that I knew of was a believer. And the man that I was doing the funeral for, I had witnessed to him 2 weeks ago, and he had just committed suicide. And so I was doing his funeral with his wife and his 2 kids, with all these people in there, and he had rejected Christ to my face 2 weeks ago at a Bob Evans. I was reeling from all the events to start with, grieving with the widow, and a whole bunch of people I didn't know that didn't know Jesus as far as I know. And I'm sitting on there, what do I believe and what's true and what do I bring to this moment? Right? But all of us have had that moment where you're thinking about, if I really represent Jesus in the way it is, my family's not going to like me. Or this thing's going to go south. Or this is going to happen, right? And I have I want to come away and people say, yeah, Greg, he's a great guy. I do. I don't want to do that. And is it, do I really, here's what I want to be. I want Jesus to say, good job, son. Good job, son. Right? So I don't know what your fears are and what it is that drives you, right, in your marriage and your relationships. But we need to acknowledge those. And we need God's strength to overcome them, to do what he wants us to do. Right? Okay. Zach, I'm done with this one. Do you want to take a break now, or what do you want? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I have one more shot at you to go, and I'll try to get there. So stand up and take a break. Don't fall asleep. You'll get a nap in heaven. Right?